hands. Who has heard of the phrase
Panamax? Panamax. Panamax. Panamax.
Never heard the phrase. I've never heard the phrase before. I mean, I've heard of Panama. I've heard of Mexico. There's two things which are going to be covered in this show here. Well, actually, three things. Three. One is, if you sent me a letter, I have a pile of letters behind me that because of my ADD, whatever, I have such a hard time context switching between reading letters, which are so beautiful and gracious. And this is why I don't collect the payments until I read them, because it's just not fair. So please, it's been months for some people. I'm so sorry. I am who I am. I don't know what else to say. I am who I am. I wish I had more capabilities of managing all of this stuff than I do. I stink at it. If I could hire a full-time admin, 40, 50 hours a week with healthcare and everything else, and I'd go for it. But it is what it is, and I'm sorry. Just patient. Thank you for those who've been helping, with support and encouragement and letters and so on. Thank you. That's the first thing. Okay. The second thing is that what I'm covering here is not really just to inform us of what this phrase means and how it ties into a bigger picture. I've never heard this phrase before, and I think the fact that this isn't being reviewed in some more detail in more places, it's a sign of how badly we are all being let down by both mainstream and most alternative media. Now, I know a lot of alternative media, I'm sure many of you will agree, also is controlled as well. Okay, fine. Maybe half of it is not controlled. Maybe only 5% is not controlled. It can't be 100% controlled. That would be ridiculous, because I know I'm not. But let's just say even only 20% of it is controlled, and that gives the illusion, and then the other 80% tends to follow that 20%. Whatever the number is, okay? I would have expected at least somebody who's not controlled, even accidentally, just randomly and accidentally, to have covered this. Nobody has. I never heard the phrase until this morning. Now, I follow this news site on YouTube called DRM News. DRM News International. There it is, DRM News. I don't know where they're located. I haven't searched into their backstory, and most of their stuff is AI-like. There are probably several hundred other news agencies that you could find which are as good or better than this one. Please, I'm not suggesting that this is an end-all, be-all truth. I would not encourage you to follow everything on this news channel. Somehow, they popped up when I was trying to determine a wider range of channels to follow that could give me some insights on India. I wanted to know what's going on in India. And I don't want the pro-India view. I don't want the anti-India view. I know that India is a massive country, very diverse. I don't want to hear all the good. I don't want to hear the bad. I want like a mix. I want some balance. I wanted to learn about India because I know India is the most populous nation. Many people from India have been in the United States having government positions which just don't seem to make any sense at all. There's a lot going on there. India, because of demographic collapse in other parts of the world, there'll be more people from India moving around. They have a role with the United Nations. I need to understand them. I need to understand what's going on there. And I'm sure there's no one India. It's not like there's one voice that speaks for it. But I wanted to get more information because there's nothing in the United States at all. And I don't want, something to simply validate, irrational fears. I wanted information. So I created a composite, which I'm sure is not a very good composite, but it was a starting point. And I noticed that this DRM News site had some information about India and Russia, which I'm like, okay, that's interesting. It's not that I have to agree with it, and it's not that it's right, but sometimes it just gets the conversation going, right? It's like, oh, okay, there's a word. And sure enough, today they have put out a video of Panamax, and I'll play the video shortly here. We're all being let down. Well, most conservative Americans, am I a conservative American? I don't know. I don't know. It's difficult to say anymore. what I am. Does it matter? But conservative Americans are being barraged right now with stupid fear-mongering. Surveillance cameras are everywhere. Charlie Kirk, communists, Islam, liberals, transgender. It's nonsense streams. And maybe there's some stuff in there that needs addressing, policy changes, I don't know. But there's something very big going on. And maybe some of it's a good thing. Maybe it's a horrible thing. I don't know. But there's some really big stuff going on right now, which is going to impact everybody. And I think very few people have any idea of what it is. And they have no idea of how it connects into something, a trajectory, a multi-generational trajectory, which goes back 150 plus years. And it's going to keep moving forward. And I find some aspects of it encouraging. And it's too bad, I see an opportunity here, for some of these ideas to be talked about more. I mean, I thought all of these flag-waving, Christian channels would like to have something, I don't know, maybe positive or encouraging once in a while. I don't see any of it. It's just terribleness all day long. It's unbearable. It's bad for the soul. So I'm going to review what this is. But again, it's about how everyone missed this. You've been underserved. You might as well just unsubscribe to everything except me. And I'll just say it. I'm not a journalist. I'm not out journaling things. I'm analyzing stuff which has been journaled elsewhere. Okay. I'm assessing and analyzing and reviewing. There needs to be journalists to provide things which have been journaled and collected to be analyzed and researched and written about, of course. That's part of the pipeline here. I've done some journaling. I've done some journalism, some reporting, some interviewing. You should know who I am, but you might as well just unsubscribe to most other stuff. You're not going to get any useful composite view anywhere else anymore. It's just fear-mongering and anger, and it's bad for you. I know how I feel when I look at my video feed. It's just bad. Okay, the last aspect of this, and this we'll be able to learn a little bit more about this after we review what this term is. There has to be something else, a higher power at play here. I don't know what it is. I can't describe it. It's just kind of weak to just say it's God. I don't know what it is. I do not have, by any stretch of the imagination, a composite list of U.S. presidents and their accomplishments. I'm not capable of saying, hey, let's go over all the presidents and talk about what they did good and bad. I can't do that. For some reason, back when I was like 8 years old, 10 years old, whenever it was, as an American, we had to remember the presidents in order, right? I remember having to remember the name of the President McKinley, and I thought, wow, that's a cool name. I swear that's all I thought. That's a cool name. There was just something about the letters, the sound. I don't know what it is. I'm not even Irish. I don't have any Irish in me as far as I know. I just thought it was a cool name. And I heard about him being assassinated. And, there was just something deep down. I'm like, I think there's a story there. And I didn't really have a deep education on McKinley at all. I remember in high school, I found it curious that McKinley was said to have been assassinated, but no one really gets into why. It's like, well, it is said that United States President McKinley was expansionist, and some people were upset that he was so expansionist, and then he died. He was shot. And then Teddy Roosevelt came in and everything was awesome. I always found that to be weird. I don't know much about Teddy Roosevelt either. He was in the Navy. He wrote the book on naval warfare. I don't know a lot about Teddy Roosevelt. I know he seems to be very popular. He's on Mount Rushmore. McKinley isn't. I'm being honest. I don't know a lot about McKinley. I learned a bit more, during the Obama administration. As I started to do a little bit of historical research, and again, I learned how it just seemed odd that he was unfavorable, And then I read a book on him of his personal life, and I couldn't imagine why people didn't like McKinley. He just seemed to be such a solid dude. And, he did not have everything go his way. And he was freaking assassinated. He was assassinated. I thought the good guys were assassinated. But the legacy that Americans are pushed about McKinley is that he was a jerk. He was expansionist. He loved wars. He was greedy. Oh, and he was assassinated. And then something good happened. Let's play this out. It sounds as if the history books have said McKinley was bad and he was assassinated and he probably deserved it. That's basically what American history books say about McKinley. And it's my experience that when the same historians, journalists, and analysts that have been, and remember, now we're in 2017 or so, 18 or so, okay, were without any good cause going out of their way for a rapidly escalating drug overdose epidemic in the United States of America, I started to adopt this mindset of, you know what, these people are just lying so bad. If they did a news piece in the morning that rat poison is really bad for you, I would probably eat it for lunch. Everything they say is opposite. So 1 month into my program, I got a McKinley poster. It's been there since I've started. And it's done in the color fashion as the Obama Hope poster. There's actually a program where you can upload any photo and it will convert it for you into the two-tone of the Obama Hope poster. So it's a little bit of a play on that. And again, I stress, I still did not have a deep knowledge of McKinley other than what I learned about him somewhat from a personal standpoint through a short book and then some interviews with the person who actually wrote that book. But that poster's been there for these weak reasons. And the fact that the reasons are weak, and I'm highlighting them because there has to be a reason why I felt as though I needed to put McKinley up there. His name was cool. Low taxes? What? He was faithful to his wife, even though she has serious brain damage. He was assassinated. What? He didn't want to get into several wars, and he kept being pushed and tricked into them. Why is his poster up there? And as it turns out, the thing that McKinley was involved in is one of the most important and consequential things in the current trajectory of the United States of America. It's still ongoing. McKinley laid the groundwork for the Panama Canal. Now, the idea of the Panama Canal precedes McKinley. But McKinley was involved in a lot of very complex financing discussions which happened. And after the assassination of McKinley, Roosevelt comes in, there's this weird financing deal, and then there's basically Colombia was tricked into cutting off the land which became the nation of Panama. And then they turned the Panama Canal itself into a separate territory. The amount of money which is gathered per year from ships going through the Panama Canal is a few $1 billion, which is a lot, but it's really not enough to change the world. But the nature of that territory and the direction that the nations of the Americas were going in, as far as potentially having very strong union with each other, was permanently disrupted after that man was assassinated. And here we are 120 plus years later, and we have this, a story that people don't want to talk about. The United States and Panama, 18 nations, are doing military exercises together regarding the defense of the Panama Canal. Now, I did a video a few days ago talking about the vision of Pan America. Remember, McKinley was assassinated at the 1901 Pan America Exposition, not the World Exposition. It was the Pan America Exposition. This concept of a united Americas goes way back. Now, I could see how some people can think this is a little bit dangerous. I'm not suggesting a loss of United States sovereignty, okay? But there is a stack of you focus on your family first, your town, then your region, your state, your nation, and then you focus on the neighborhood, and then you think worldwide. You always you work local, and then you work these outer layers, these outer rings, okay? And there's so much potential for financial and economic vibrance amongst the nations of the Americas. It's unbelievable. The nations of the Americas, we have collectively more land per person, more oil per person, more food per person, more shore per person, more fish per person, more lumber per person than any other place on the planet. We have so much financial, economic, agricultural, resource security. It's bananas. And the people that are not talking about this are the same people that are suggesting that Palo Alto, or not Palo Alto, but cities in Hawaii are being burned down because they want to make a hotel. If you think that the neighborhoods north of Los Angeles was burned down because somebody wanted to build a pipeline, then you also have to admit that the possibility that the globe right now is thinking about the resource bonanza that exists amongst a relatively small population in the Americas, you are an absolute deceitful, lying bastard. If you think resources matter, if you've ever said resources matter, if you think that forest fires are being done so that someone can make a hotel or a land development or a pipeline, then you also must admit first that there is a resource bonanza in the Americas that will only exist and be appreciated if there is collaboration amongst the Americas. That vision was known all the way back in 1901. McKinley was assassinated. Some UK-aligned Teddy Roosevelt came in, and everything that happened with the canal, although a canal was built, was an absolute catastrophe. It was a train wreck, especially for the Americas. And now here we are. Trump has said that he respects McKinley, when most people think naively, oh, he just likes the tariffs. It's not really about the tariffs. That's not it. McKinley's vision was Pan-American Union. Now, it's not to mean that the U.S. becomes just one with Canada and Mexico. It doesn't mean that the U.S. Constitution is lost. It does mean, though, that there is a lot of collaboration amongst trade. It is understood that the borders need to be secured, but the secured borders are for the benefit of the nations on both sides. A Pan-American Union makes the United States incredibly secure and powerful. It really does. And it's a hard thing to grapple with right now, because the encouragement is to have more and more isolation. But think about it. Think about how incredibly compatible the Americas are. Even Panama itself is, although 40% give or take indigenous, the Americas have so much in common. Most of the nations of the Americas are immigrants. Most people in the Americas are from Spain, France, Germany, England, Russia, China, India. You know, we're mostly immigrants. We are mostly cultures of people who have a lot of kind of background in common. And we have so many resources. There's no shortage of land or food. People can eat 3 pounds of steak a day. It's obscene how much resources there are in the Americas. Unfortunately, we'll never be able to experience it if we are constantly divided and fighting with each other. So Trump may be doing this very poorly. He may be doing it in a way to butcher the whole thing. I don't know. But these moves, whereas India's influence in Venezuela has been reduced with the removal of Maduro, who was aligned with an Indian god prophet. Potentially next will be Cuba. I know Marco Rubio He keeps saying it over and over again. We need to focus on the Americas. He's not saying the United States needs to lose its sovereignty. That would be terrible because the world needs the United States. Matter of fact, the Americas need the United States, a place which has extreme protections of individual liberty, gun rights, etc. We need the United States as it is. But I think we also need to understand that the amount of financial success that we can enjoy and attain with collaborations with Chile and Argentina and Peru and Mexico and Panama and Canada are unheralded. They're huge. So this is happening today. And Democracy Now! Reported on this also this morning. They've never mentioned the word either. So clearly it's getting traction. You should have known. I should have already known it, but nobody mentioned it. So here we are. This is from a day ago. United States, Panama, and 18 nations drill together military exercises amongst these 18 nations. Here we go.
Today, a major multinational military exercise has come to an end in Panama, as the United States, Panama, and partner nations completed Panamax 2026, a large-scale exercise focused on defending the Panama Canal and strengthening regional security. The exercise ran from August 3rd through August 13th and brought together more than 2,000 military and security professionals from 20 countries. This year's Panamax included maritime operations, small boat exercises, cyber defense, special operations, and command post training. The goal was to improve how participating countries coordinate their forces and respond to potential threats. U.S. Southern Command Chief General Francis L. Donovan highlighted the level of cooperation between the participating nations. He said the exercise demonstrated seamless military-to-military coordination, including information sharing, operational planning, logistics, and other key military functions. One important feature of Panamax 2026 was the combination of command post exercises with practical field training. Military leaders and personnel were able to work together on the ground, helping test how quickly and effectively multinational forces could coordinate during a potential crisis. Panama also emphasized the importance of regional cooperation. Panama Security Minister Frank Alexis Abrego said the country wants to continue strengthening alliances, improving information exchange, conducting joint training, and developing the capabilities needed to respond to conventional, asymmetric, and emerging threats.
This is probably an AI
The exercise comes with the Panama Canal serving as a critical piece of global trade infrastructure. Its security and stability remain important not only to Panama, but also to countries across the region and around the world. Panamax 2026 was also significant because it marked the first time since 2012 that the exercise was held in person with practical operations. For the participating countries, the exercise provided an opportunity to test communication, coordination, and readiness in a multinational environment. As the drills concluded on August 13th, officials stressed a common message. Modern security threats can cross borders, making international cooperation increasingly important. Panamax 2026 has now ended, but the military partnerships and operational lessons developed during the exercise are expected to continue shaping regional security.
Our unity has been on display for the world to see. Behind that unity is Panamax and its seamless military-to-military coordination among more than 2,000 military and security professionals from 20 countries.
I suspect that the Iran war is also part of this. Iran is, most people believe, a massive hub of resources. The influence into South America amongst India and China has been surging over the last 15 to 20 years. And the United States right now in the Strait of Hormuz, whatever this conflict is with Iran. What's happening right now is a negotiation. The United States has Maduro, has the leader of Venezuela, someone who had allegiance to India. So while this is what's happening right now, not to mention Europe is having its own financial meltdown. Europe is in a demographic absolute collapse right now. I don't know what's going to be happening with Europe. But whatever NATO is needs to be transitioning from North American treaty probably to Western Hemisphere treaty. These are things which are in flux right now. I can't describe it much better than that, but as an analyst, I can see these bigger pictures. You should be able to see them too, and you don't need to know all the details. But it's a tragedy that, while probably billion hours has been wasted on who killed Charlie Kirk, who isn't even dead, there's still almost no coverage of the opioid epidemic and almost no insight at all on this major geopolitical realignment which is happening, which could be a fantastic thing for the 38 to 40 nations of the Americas. This could be a fantastic thing. It could also be a route for the United States to protect its sovereignty and its constitutional vision within this context, perhaps. So instead of being, everything is bad, everything's on fire, flags on fire, the end is near, there's going to be no more America, everything burning. I'm trying to think of something constructive. None of this crap needs to be happening if everything's just going to be burned down and they're going to kill everyone in the future. There has to be something happening here. And again, I'm not saying it's all good, but I'm choosing, because I will live longer if I have some positive feelings, to see some positive movement here. And when I just started doing the math, just again a week or two ago, I did a video short, the Pan America future. Not my phrase. They named the Pan American Exposition in 1901 after it. It's where McKinley was shot. These ideas go back several generations. Several generations ago, these ideas were out there, these visions were out there, and they've been constantly interrupted. Somehow or another, and I don't even know how it's possible, okay? The Human Genome Project research director, someone who claims to be or been one, Dr. Kevin McKernan, has now said that Charles Rixey, American Charles Rixey, R-I-X-E-Y, deserves a medal, Nobel Prize or something like that for discovering some bacterium DNA. I don't know. It's so stupid trying to turn Charles Rixey into some heroic geneticist. I mean, why? But here's why it just, among the reasons why it bothers me so much. I mean, of all the Americans, come on. So let's go to Houstonic.live and this is a picture of President McKinley during his Buffalo visit on the day McKinley was shot. This was one of the last photos taken of President McKinley on the day he was shot and killed. He died several days later. The woman next to him, of course, is Mrs. McKinley. And the taller guy with the mustache is the great-great-uncle of Charles Rixey. Now, the great-great-uncle of Charles Rixey, who Kevin McKernan of the Human Genome Project is now saying is some great hero, his great-great-uncle is there and is the first White House surgeon. Matter of fact, there was no such thing as a White House surgeon. This Confederate aligned guy who loved the Confederacy, didn't really like American flags much, wiggled his way into the trust circle of the McKinleys. Dr. Preston Marion Rixey, R-I-X-E-Y. He's a great-great-uncle of Charles Rixey. And there he is walking the McKinleys down in Buffalo just 3 hours before he's shot. That's weird. What are the odds of that? And here on October 27th, 1901, is the medical report of President McKinley after he dies. The medical report of President McKinley, you know, the guy who has a vision of a Pan-American Union, or at least a Pan-American trade union, Pan-American security union. After he dies, several days after he's assassinated, his medical report is written by Charles Rixey's great-great-uncle, Preston Marion Rixey. And now Charles Rixey is going to be heralded as some genetic hero by the same people that are right now using deaths from America's opioid epidemic to suggest that the U.S. military is bad because they created COVID. Can you see it? Also, if you read the report closely enough, you'll eventually come to the conclusion that McKinley probably wouldn't have died. Even though he was shot twice, the bullets were very small, and he appeared to be recovering. It's funny how Preston Marion Rixey, Charles Rixey's great-great-uncle, intervened in an unsuccessful way, and I believe is more responsible for killing President McKinley, leading to the presidency of Theodore Roosevelt, than probably any other person. I think McKinley could have pulled through. This highlights, by the way, one of the problems with assassinations. Either a stubborn doctor, or if you don't hit the mark perfectly, people more often than not can survive a gunshot wound. That's what is so remarkable about the Charlie Kirk assassination. He was shot, and there was no blood anywhere, aside from whatever squirted out of the packet in his shirt. And they just assumed that he died. That's it, he died. The most salient explanation for the assassination of Charlie Kirk is he didn't die. Oh, that's right. He started to speak out about U.S. involvement in the war conflict between Pakistan and India. Funny. Seems to align with the fact that India, in their United Nations power, has involvement, has some sway of what's going on in South America, in particular Venezuela and then Cuba. They chose Charles Rixey. Is a network of people who are willing to lie and backstab for the benefit of some non-American, anti-American force so small that they actually had to recruit a shoe salesman to write a couple of blog posts, become one of the first early COVID survivors.com, and now is going to be a geneticist? Wow, these people are sad who are fighting against this. And I'm sorry for the typo in the title. It should be P-A-N, Panamax, not Panamax, Panamax, P-A-N-A-M-A-X, Panamax. Oh, and many of the other journalists right now, they're not really journalists, they're failures, who also, not talking about any of this, all of them have also failed to cover this story as well. Nope, they just... McKinley was shot. He was a jerk. He was an expansionist. But Teddy Roosevelt was awesome. I don't know if Teddy Roosevelt was awesome or not, but the people that are saying McKinley more or less got what he deserved seem to be the same people that ignore the second largest loss of life event in the history of the United States. I find them, they're also the same people that also universally agree that Charlie Kirk was definitely assassinated. The only death that they seem to be able to get right is the one, or they can't even get that right. They can't even agree that Charlie Kirk wasn't assassinated. I guess their definition of death is a little bit different than mine. So, it's my Friday afternoon show. I should have been doing a letter and a thank you right now. I'm so sorry. This is just what keeps happening. So thank you guys. I don't know. positive. I'm going to feel a little bit of positive momentum about maybe having some collaboration amongst the Americas and not in the border. Oh yeah, and Brett Weinstein went to the Darien Gap. Oh, that's another thing. This is remarkable. I just have to continue this rant here. The Darien Gap, another phrase I never even heard of until a couple of months ago. So right now, people cannot drive from North America to South America. You can't drive. Did you know that? I didn't know that until a few months ago. No road exists. There's an area in Panama, which is known as the Darien Forest or Wildlife Reserve, which is said to be so dangerous with snakes and spiders and prickly trees and poison ivy and rocks and I don't know, that it's impossible to make a road through it. Of course, it is possible for cocaine traffickers to carry babies on foot through there, but it's impossible, I guess, to build a highway. I know it doesn't make any sense, but this is what you have to believe. Brett Weinstein, someone who supported Robert Malone and Dr. Kevin McKernan, took his son to the Darien Gap recently to prove how dangerous it was. It's just impossible to unite the Americas. There's just no way. It's such an absurd story. Now, I'm sure you wouldn't want to walk through there without a little bit of mosquito repellent barefoot. I'm not saying that it's the most pleasant place, but come on. New England in the summer, if I didn't cover my skin, I would die of mosquito bites here. I don't need to go to the Darien Gap to die of bugs and prickers. There's enough here in New England. I could kill myself in my yard, if I wasn't careful. I mean, come on. This is such a stupid story. The reason why this impassable land exists also goes back to the United States and Teddy Roosevelt, or whoever was controlling Teddy Roosevelt, keeping the America separated. Why? I mean, okay, whatever. Even if someone doesn't like a united America or separated Americas, whatever, just for the benefit of having a road for trade, there must be so much economic drivers to have a road. I don't understand why there is no road. It doesn't make any sense at all. The only explanation is that we are on a journey, a multi-generational journey, which started 400 years ago with the settling of the Americas from Europe. 400, 500 years ago this started, folks. 400, 500, that's a lot of generations of people. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of generations of people. And it didn't just stop because Trump became president or 9/11. It's still ongoing. 250 years in, the U.S. popped up. The nature of whatever the U.S. is going to change over time because we're not antique civilizations like India and China. We're something new, and as something new, it's still going to be a version 1, a version 2, a version 3. It's still evolving. I'm not saying we need to rip it down. That's the wrong way of thinking about it, but we're still evolving. We're still the new world. The new world has been around for only, China is 10,000 years old. The New World is 500. China has been around 20 times longer than the New World has. We're still evolving. We're still trying to figure it out. And we are loaded with resources. And instead of being all fire and, Trump bad, Obama bad, blah, blah, think something positive if you live here. There's a lot of opportunity here. It may not be achieved, but there's a lot of opportunity. Maybe some good things are happening behind the scenes. Maybe there is some political realignment, geopolitical realignment going on, which could be beneficial for heaven's sakes. Would it kill you to have a positive thought once in a while? Maybe. Would it, maybe some other outlet should have a few. Anyways, sorry. It's just so ridiculous. There's Hollywood movie series right now which are being put out only to reinforce the narrative that this Darien Gap is impossible. Anyways, all right, guys. Thank you. Love you. Love you much. God bless.